crowned by the king, he making connections, he building his team, connecting the dreams. Lock in on the vision, gotta believe. Be about his business and you'll receive. Yeah, we crowned by the king. Yeah, we crowned by the king. Yeah, we crowned. Had to get to work, had to stop all the chit chat. Too many talents, can't waste them. Yeah, that's big facts. Making kingdom moves, standing on business like me, Shaq. Aiming for our goals, click clack. Moving forward, no need to reach back. Tell me where I need to preach at. Tell me where I need to speak at.
All right, we are back again with another episode of the CROWNEDCAST Podcast. My name is Joseph Hunnyset. With me, as always, is my incredible business partner, co-host, Mr. Joel Ngulu. How you doing today, brother?
Blessed, highly favored, man. Like always, blessed, highly favored.
You know, the last 3 episodes, we've had multiple changes of how you present yourself to us. First, it was old glasses. Next episode was no glasses. Now you got the new glasses. Everybody's going to be excited about that.
Man, it's marketing, bro. You know, you got to keep investing. You got to keep them questioning, bro. So come on.
I told you the number one comment we get is about your glasses. So keep it up. I'm excited today because I recently got introduced to this gentleman from Joel, but I've heard so many great and just servant-minded things, as well as just knowledge and wisdom. And I'm excited for this conversation today. But this gentleman is a serial entrepreneur and a marketing expert with 40 years of experience. He's a founder of Sharkmatic advertising and a leader who's helped thousands of businesses scaling, helping scale their companies. And so I know he's a great mentor to my brother over here. And so without further ado, we got Howie Nestel on the podcast today. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Joseph and Joel. And I agree. I always look forward to see what Joel's not only wearing on his face, but what he's wearing on his body. It's even his clothing, you know, it's like, man, I had to one up. I had to go change shirts just to
there you go. It's that African swag.
Bro, I was about to say that. It's that African, man. We always got to one up, man.
Joel brought me a shirt from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I should have worn my DNR shirt.
Yeah, I honestly,
you brought him at the Shiki?
Yeah, bro. I brought him back a shirt, and yeah, he actually made a video on it, and everything was cool. I thought you were gonna wear it, man, but it's all good.
I wasn't prepared.
You should have known. I want to start this episode out. Of course, I want to hear from you and your perspective, but I want to know the story behind how you and Joel initially met and how that relationship has kind of just been built over the last handful of years.
Yeah. So, Joel, you probably, should at least start that part off, because I was emceeing an event that you were featured at and you were telling your story. You want to pick it up from there?
Yeah, so I got invited to speak at Dream Week here in San Antonio. It's a huge event that they do every year, highlighting pretty much people in the community that do an impact. Over here, this one was an immigrant series, highlighting people who came from overseas and adapting to American culture and being successful, right? And so one of my mentors, Chris Herring, he invited me to speak. His friend Show, who was one on here, and he was like, "Hey, I need you to speak for an hour." And I was not prepared, but I studied and prepared myself. The first hour speech, and man, the day of, I was super nervous, and Howie was there. He was there early, and I was just talking to him. I was like, "Man, I'm super nervous. What's your name?" And he was like, "I'm Howie. I'm actually the MC." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I mean, you're the guy supposed to have me up and make me look good." And from there, I just got to know who he was and what he does in the community. And he introduced me really well. But afterwards, I was like, man, we got to stay connected. We got to talk. And we did that here for about another year. And then while I was in grad school, I needed intern hours. But on top of that, man, he's a great connector, and he does the industry that I love, which is marketing. And so I was like, let me go learn from the best here in San Antonio, right? Really well known here, but he does a lot, not just in business, but philanthropy. So he has a heart to give back. And so we aligned in that way, and he gives back a lot, and stuff that we do in Africa aligns with the same heart. And so he's been a great mentor for me, but that's kind of the start of how we, when I first met him that day.
Yeah. And he really, what stood out about Joel is that he was very charismatic and open to learning and listening. Usually a lot of people in their 20s are more interested in talking than they are listening. And one of the things that endeared me to him was that he asked a lot of questions and was curious and was willing to learn. He ended up doing an internship at Sharkmatic Advertising at my agency. Then we hired him part-time to come and hang out and do more stuff with us. And then as I got to know him and I got to know his family, I really got to be able to support his ministry in Africa with the, what he does for children there, with the orphanage, what his family has done. And I think it's a beautiful legacy. And then I got invited to eat some African food with his family. And it's been a great relationship ever since, many years now. And I look forward to bigger and greater things, just like this podcast.
Absolutely. Why was it that he didn't get hired on for a full-time position?
Because he has his aspirations were way too high. He wanted to take over. He wanted to be the boss, but then what would I do? I would have no role.
Exactly.
That's
awesome. No, yeah. Joel's family, I've known them probably more than any other family that I've known my entire life, just having that relationship. We met when we were in middle school and high school. And I've known them ever since and got in trouble by them. You know what I mean? Like, we got in trouble together. Our families scolded each other. And so it's been awesome to be able to be up close to like that type of family, because that's not really seen in the world today. You know what I mean? And they live it out. So I love what you guys do as well, man. So you guys got integrated to each other after that internship and after that part-time role. How did that relationship continue on building? Obviously, Joel being interested about marketing, and obviously you, Joel, understood the need and want for mentorship and how that propelled you. So I'm curious about that mentor-mentee relationship.
Yeah. So
I
mean, I want to hear Joel's perspective.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna tell you mine, because it might contradict. It might be the same. Joel, what do you think?
For me, man, since I was in grad school, I just went to networking events, and there's no one my age at these events. It was everyone older than me. And so I wanted to be around the best of the best. And so politically, I connected with Chris Hearing, who was connected here in the city. And so that was a great mentor, the niche that I wanted to grow in, right? And so I wanted the best. And Howie, I just heard a lot about him after meeting him. And so after that year, I would visit him here and there. And then I started internship, right? I started seeing he had a lot of knowledge, but he was more of a follow me and watch me as we grow. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just watch my lifestyle, connect with me, come to my events, be that fly on the wall with me, right? And you'll get to connect with amazing people, but also you'll see and learn the way I communicate, the way I run things. Man, this guy, he'll throw an event with a week and he'll have like 50 to 100 people show up easily, right? Mm-hmm. He's been doing this for years and years, and before the internet. And so why not team up with the best and learn that way? And so for me, the best way I learned is to be in that fly on the wall, is learning that way. So it was easy mesh that way as far as the learning mentee to mentor style. But what I learned from him was, man, he's bold. The way he runs his business, the way he's organized. Like, man, I take a lot of if you've seen the way I've organized my Google Drives and the way I organize my files. I've learned a lot of that from him, right? And so just the way he structures business inside and out. But being there, that fly on the wall, and just being present with Howie at his events, but also at the office and being around the office group, how he runs a team, like things like that. Just being that fly on the wall is my biggest things that I've picked up.
Yeah. So Joseph, it's a really good question, and most mentees do it wrong. And let me explain. But Joel has it right. Once again, he listened. I meet people all the time. I'm at 5 to 7 events a week. And like Joel said, on a good day, I may have 100, 200 people there. I did a comedy event this past week. There were about 220 people there. I got to MC and open up the show for a national comedian. So I have a lot of people come up to me after I speak, and they go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. I didn't know they existed. And within 30 seconds, they're asking me to mentor them. And I put them in the stalker category. That to me is not a mentee, that's a stalker. And then they start following me on social media. Then I've had some show up at my office unannounced. That's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is get invited, show up to stuff, do your own thing. I'll introduce you, but I can't be your handler. And I can't handhold you and take you from place to place and introduce you everywhere, because I don't have the bandwidth to do that. And most of these people, I don't know them well. I can't even really adequately mentor them until I get to know them. But how do I get to know them? If they show up to where I am. I'm not going to show up generally where they are until I get to know them. That's when Joel started inviting me. He invited me to the Global Chamber to speak. Then he invited me to his family's event. Then he invited me to a church service. That's how I start to get integrated. But you can't go from nothing to all in 30 seconds. And also, I'll tell you that for a mentee-mentor relationship to work, the mentee has to have some amount of endurance and stamina to stay in the game and not to throw in the towel and give up. Oh man, this guy's all over the place. I'm not going to drive all the way downtown. I'm not going to meet him there. There's no parking. Where am I going to go? I don't even know what to wear. And so they usually drop off pretty quickly. I would say of the 15,000 people I know on a first-hand basis, probably 500 of them would be potentially good mentees that could gain something valuable from hanging out with me. And of those 500, I've probably mentored maybe 10%, 50 of them. And of those 50, I would say 25 have gone on to do great things. Documentary filmmakers, open their own businesses. I still stay in touch with them. Some of them are in their 30s, super proud of them. And the other 25 probably gained something, but then, dropped off the radar, as they say.
Yeah, no, I love this conversation, and I'm glad how you were able to pick up what I was leading to, because a lot of times we don't hear both perspectives of like mentor and mentee, what a good mentee needs to do to really just not ride your coattails, but gain as much knowledge and wisdom so that they can use. And then hearing from the mentor side of like, if you're not paying me, like I love what you said, just have that endurance.
Yeah, that's the bare minimum, Joseph, is to have the endurance. But also, then you have somebody who steps up like Joel and then provides value. So yes, he's doing he's doing an internship, but he invites me to speak. He invites me and he connects me to people,
right, that
I would not have otherwise have met. So then it becomes a reciprocal relationship.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
It's a give and take.
It's just like it's just like any other relationship, right? Like if you go up to a woman, right, and you go and you hit them with the, hey, I want to, hit it and quit it, you're not going to have a lot of results. Like when you go up to somebody and you meet somebody for the first time, like, hey, can you mentor me? It's off-putting. It's the same thing, rather than, taking it slow, building that relationship. And I may be wrong, but I feel like from a mentee's perspective, you should be on like, you should just want, hey, if you're there, I'm there too, right? If like you're hungry enough to ask somebody to be a mentor, you have to have the willingness to have that humility and be like, hey, I'm in that learning stage, but I'm going to use this relationship so then I can help that individual in the future, and we can both benefit. So I love this, because I know there's a lot of youth as well as people that are stuck and they're looking for that right connection, right? There's a great quote that says, you're one connection away from changing the rest of your life.
Yes, you're one connection away from changing the rest of your life. You're one decision from drastically changing the trajectory of your life. One decision. You can be on the highway with no median, doing 90 miles an hour at midnight and decide to cross the median and hit another car head on. Or you can get up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., hit the gym, change what you're eating, start by, joining some philanthropic group and donating your time, giving of your service, whatever it is, you're one decision away from changing the trajectory of your life. And it could be positive, it could be negative.
I love that. Yeah. Howie, I'd say you're successful. I'm sure you'd say you're very successful as well. Being where you're at in the stage of the game, right? Like you're decades into entrepreneurship and other endeavors. What now motivates you? Like what are your goals that you're striving towards?
Yeah, man. Let me tell you how poignant of a question that is. It's something I've been thinking about for the past 10 years. I've been fortunate in my career, one, that I wasn't scholastically very smart. And so I didn't know what I didn't know, but more importantly, I didn't care what I didn't know. And so I thought that more things were possible than I would have thought if I was any smarter. And so I would say that through hard work, perseverance, networking, connections, and scrapping, I ended up becoming financially very successful. Okay, I've been a partner in more than 24 businesses for the past, I would say 10 to 15 years. I work because I want to, not because I have to. But I came to realize that success, the way it's defined in business, which is on a financial scale, is really not the goal and shouldn't be the goal. The goal in life should be to achieve a level of significance. Success is a stopping point on the way to significance. And there are a lot of people who will continue to push and get more and more financially successful without ever reaching their destination of significance. And so what happens is that then you hear Kenny Chesney and these guys write songs called, titled Rich and Miserable and those kinds of things because it's a thing, right? You have all these people that have all this affluence and all these material things. So why aren't they happy? This is what they wanted all along and they achieved it. And then they go out to try to get more and more and more. And then it's never enough. And you see them, they're 60, 70, 80 years old, still busting their ass, making deals, suing people, getting sued, and they're miserable. And so I was fortunate that on my radar came up this destination of significance. And I always imagined living an extraordinary life. And I don't mean rich or famous. I mean outside the ordinary. For me, average and ordinary is my biggest fear. Regret of not doing something, to me, is one of the worst things I can endure. So I always push towards living an extraordinary life by serving others. That's the path I found. So I'm involved and have been involved with a lot of nonprofits. I help people raise money. I also connect people to the right causes, connect the right causes to the right philanthropists. And then I do a collection drive for the homeless. I work with children battling cancer. I work with battered women in children's shelter. I work with so many nonprofits that gives me a sense of gratitude, appreciation for what I have. Most of my problems, if not all of my problems, are really first world problems. One car has a low tire, the other one this, the delivery guy showed up late, the landscaper, blah, blah, blah. And so those are things that, I call a first world problem. Anybody you tell it to, 80% of the people don't care and 20% are happy that it happened to you, So I really have no right to complain when I work with kids battling cancer that are 5, 6, 7 years old. I work with people who are homeless. I work with abused and battered women and children. What right do I have to complain about anything? And I also realize that what I've been able to achieve from a business perspective is enough. I have a great business. My earn rate is greater than my burn rate. So I'm financially independent. Now, people define rich in a whole bunch of different ways. I don't really care necessarily how much money I make. I'm more concerned about how I make my money. To me, I have to make money the right way versus making a lot of money. And as long as I can cover my expenses and even really live below my means, and I'm not saying I live a modest lifestyle, but I'm a minimalist with the most material possessions I know. Okay, but in my mind,
Okay.
I'm a minimalist. You know, if I go out of town, I'll keep from buying a T-shirt because I know I'm not going to wear it because I don't need any more T-shirts. You know, but there's certain things I like. I like cars. I like motorcycles. I like experiences. I like travel. So I'll spend my money on those kinds of things. And there's no denying that in this world, there are two currencies. Well, three of you include crypto, but I'm not going to talk about crypto. I'm going to talk about financial currency, which is what you deposit in the bank that you use to pay your mortgage and your car payments and your insurance and all that stuff. And then there's your spiritual currency. That's what you pour into other people. That's where you invest in nonprofits. That's where you invest in people. That's where you do mentorship. And you have to make deposits into both of those accounts. If not, you're going to be either morally or spiritually or financially bankrupt. And you can't have an extraordinary life if you're not depositing in at least those two bank accounts. Of course, we could talk about health, we could talk about other stuff, but I don't want to get this analogy to go off the rails here. But I have a financial bank account and a spiritual bank account, and I make sure that I'm working just as hard to fill both of those up so that the end result is I live an extraordinary life by serving others and by being able to be a good entrepreneur. And I'll tell you, here's the crazy thing, okay? That again, because I'm not very smart, I would have never have been able to design this on purpose. The fact that I got involved with nonprofits, the fact that I started helping other people, the fact that I got to put others first gave me access to millionaire and billionaire philanthropists that then ended up, some of them, hiring me in my business or facilitating my success in some of my businesses. It's not why I did it, but God, Mother Nature, karma kind of knows if you're sincere and you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, guess what? You're getting rewarded. But if you're doing it because you think it's going to help your business, it ends up not.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just, man, how you, that brings it to this point of a nonprofit. You really talked about that a lot in business. So, because you're really strong in both. And so can you talk about the story of Gotcha Covered? Because that's something you're really passionate about that you do once a year. That's pretty powerful. So you can talk about that story and give that plug in, but then talk about how do you separate your business from the nonprofit and how can you be powerful in both and how can one feed each other?
Right. Yeah. So in this way, I'm actually better than Michael Jordan because he was good at basketball, but not so good at baseball. Okay. No, I'm kidding. But you know now why it's important for me to be good at both. But the Gotcha Covered, and for those of you who are watching and listening, go to gotchacovered.org or simply Google Collection Drive San Antonio, and you'll see Gotcha Covered Collection Drive come up. This is our 30th year. So 2026 December will be our 30th year of doing this annual collection drive. It's a single day, largest collection drive in San Antonio. 100% of everything we collect on that day, donated by very generous San Antonians, goes to the people who need it the most. So we collect new and gently used clothing, non-perishable food items, toiletries, small housewares, and we take them to Battered Women and Children's Shelter, Haven for Hope, and the San Antonio Food Bank. Last year, in 6 hours, we collected 70,000 pounds of donations. To put into perspective, that's 3 big truckloads. And I do it with no 501c3, no bank account, no board of directors. I do it with friends and people who want to help this mission. And we promote it on social media. We do direct mail. We do all kinds of things to get the word out. And then San Antonians hear about it and they come out and they donate. They fill up their cars and trucks full of stuff and they come and donate it. I have 20 to 30 volunteers. We unload it. We put it in box trucks. At the end of the day, we close the box trucks and we take it directly to the nonprofits. So for them, it doesn't cost them anything and they don't have to put out any real effort. This is done for them. And the way it started was I had a friend downtown and we would go to lunch periodically. We were officed a couple blocks from each other and I walked by his office this one particular day to go to lunch. And there's always a homeless guy that stayed behind his building. And so we'd see him and sometimes we'd bring him back lunch or give him a couple bucks. And this particular day, we invited him to go eat lunch with us. We said, hey, why don't you come eat with us? He came with us and we asked him where he stayed. He said at a shelter called New Jerusalem Baptist Ministry or something like that downtown. And he invited us to go see the shelter that they were doing a little bit of an open house. And so you never want to show up to an open house without a gift. So we asked them, hey, what do you guys need at the shelter? Oh, we always need coffee and cups and sugar. So we bought a 2-pound or 5-pound jar of a can of Folgers and some styrofoam cups and some sugar packets and those kinds of things. And we showed up and they had invited other people to this open house. And it was a bit disappointing. I don't mind telling you guys, maybe 6 or 7 people showed up to this open house. And there were a few things that people brought and they put those things on this plastic folding table. And it was, I don't know, to me, it was a little bit pathetic. And so I told my buddy, I said, we could do better than this. We should do some kind of collection drive. And he and I started talking. And so we knew people in the media because I'd been in marketing. So we started calling people in the media, promoting it. Well, we showed up to what is now Park North Shopping Center. It used to be Central Park Mall at the corner of Blanco Road and Loop 410 under this big lighted sign. And we set a day and we promoted it on radio and all the old school marketing things because 30 years ago, the modern World Wide Web was not around. So we ended up collecting more items than we could fit in the truck. So we called different friends. We ended up calling somebody who knew somebody at Walmart. They brought a gigantic truck. We had these boxes all over the parking lot, and we took them to Sam Ministries, and we took them to Any Baby Can, diapers, baby wipes, all kinds of cool stuff. And we took them and donated them. And then the next year we were ready. And we had one big truck. We filled that up. Eventually it was 2, then 3. And now here we are in our 30th year. And the friend that I started it with went off to do other stuff. He stayed on for a few years, but then that was it, and lost touch. And so I continued it. I thought it was a nice tradition. And here we are 30 years later, collected probably more than 1 million pounds of donations and really good stuff. A lot of people buy new things, new jackets, sweats, all kinds of stuff. And the Battered Women and Children's Shelter said that, told me a couple times that we collect about half of everything they need for the entire year for women and children.
You see, that's beautiful, man. But marketing has a big part of it.
Correct. Yes.
Big thing that people don't understand. They think marketing is only one thing. And so you do one thing for a client and then they're like, well, I need this from this results. You're like, well, do you have this set up? Do you have this set up? Marketing is marketing is the umbrella and there's different specs in marketing. Can you talk about that? Because for you, you've done it all. You've done radio that you mentioned, and now there's new school and old school marketing. Can you talk about tactics that worked in the past that don't work and things that still work the new way? Can you talk a little bit about that expertise?
Right. So Sharkmatic advertising is not my first entree into marketing. I studied marketing at UT Austin, and then I went to work for Procter & Gamble in sales and marketing. And then I worked for an international advertising agency for a couple years. And then I started a series of marketing firms after that, pre-Sharkmatic. Those days, there was no internet, and we did radio, television, print, billboards, logos, letterhead. But the premise, the underlying formula or recipe of what works in marketing and what's effective is storytelling. So that's what I bring forward from old school marketing into new school marketing. So now my in-house team and I have created about 1,200 websites. We've worked for more or less 1,500 clients in 34 years, and we manage about 450 active clients. But the thread that ties the old school into the new school, for at least for our offering, is storytelling. How do you tell the story in a clear and compelling and compassionate way that resonates with the people that are listening to the story? But a lot of new school marketers, both the people who provide the marketing, the agencies, as well as the clients, tend to gravitate towards what's free or cheap. And they put up, for lack of a better way of describing it, their logo and branding feces all over the internet, and nobody really cares because they're not telling a story, and it's certainly not compelling, and it's not sincere. They take stock images, stock video, they use AI, they throw in a bunch of fancy words, and nobody's really responding or reacting to that because everybody else is doing that. Back to being average and ordinary. You're not breaking through the clutter. You're not making a difference. You're not making an impact. And so if you want to have people engage with you, the responsibility is on the marketer. The agency and the client together have to provide content that is engageable. How do you expect people to engage with your material if it's not interesting, if it's not different, if it's not telling a story, if it's not sincere? But yet we're real quick to say, oh, marketing doesn't work. I spent $3,000 on Google Ads and I didn't get any return on investment. No. Maybe your message sucks. Maybe your product sucks. No offense. But if all you're doing is saying, we paint houses, so what? So do a lot of other people.
Right.
What makes you unique and different? Tell me a little bit about your story. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I painted when I was in Vietnam, and my arm was blown off, and then my dominant arm was blown off, and I was a sniper. I learned how to shoot with my left arm, and then after that, I started. I was very depressed, and I decided I wanted to start a painting company, but I didn't have my dominant arm, and then I learned how to paint with my left arm. And now I have leftarmpainting.com. I'm making that shit up, by the way. But you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, you're like, oh my God. Now everybody who's in the military, anybody who loves a story about perseverance, anybody who feels a little bit sorry for the guy, and then they see like, well, how sincere. Look, this guy's starting his business, man, and he's out there. And I would love for my kids to hear that story because this guy overcame obstacles to start this business. I'm hiring that guy. Now, all of a sudden, I don't really care what he's charging. I'm not going to pay him $1 million to paint my house, but if he's within the ballpark, I'll hire him. And then I'm going to tell that story. And then I'm going to post, oh my God, I have this guy painting my house with his left arm and his whole staff and everything. Look him up. And then people will resonate. And now this is the purple cow, right? Now everybody's talking about it. They're remarking about it because it's unique and different. But how many times are you going to tell somebody, oh my God, yeah, I had this guy, I don't know, he just came by, knocked on the door, and then I hired him to paint my house. Okay. So we like to find that story, and everybody has a story, but not everybody tells it, and not everybody knows how to tell it. And if you want to die with, I don't have a story, I don't know how to tell a story, I could never tell a story, I don't like public speaking, I don't like being on video, what shit, then, good luck. Vaya con Dios. What do you want me to tell you? There's a lot of things I do that I don't like to do. Trust me. I don't wake up all day, every day doing everything I like. I either get up and do the things I like, and then the things I don't like, I learn how to like them, or I tell myself these are necessary. Get good at them, because when I get good at them, guess what? I'm all of a sudden going to start liking them because I'm really good at them, even though I hated them. You know, I'm sure Shaq hated shooting free throws, you know, because he wasn't good at it.
Exactly.
And then he got good at it when everybody was hack-a-shacking him. You know what I mean? And then he had to get good at it. And then all of a sudden, then that whole thing ended when he got better at it, right? So,
yeah, I mean, getting outside of your comfort zone and doing the things that you don't like, but you do them anyways. My personal opinion, that is the prerequisite to, number one, any growth, but to be an entrepreneur or have a business. And you know, we throw events too. I hear that often. And to me, I'm always like, well, how did you not know that you needed to do that? Like, you have to do that in order to not even succeed, but just like break even.
yeah. Well, Joseph, most people are going to tell you that they know the concept of getting outside your comfort zone, like Joel said. They're just not going to do it.
Exactly.
Okay. So here's a little riddle for you guys. You have 5 birds on a wire. Don't overthink this. 3 decide to leave. How many birds are left?
On the wire?
Yeah.
There's
You're
5,
overthinking
3
it.
left. There's 2.
Right. You didn't overthink it. Joel, you agree with your partner?
2, yeah, 2.
Yeah. Okay. No, there's 5. And I'll tell you why. Because there were 5 birds on a wire. 3 decided to leave.
Decided.
But they took no action.
Yep.
They made a decision in their head, but they're still there. So
Right.
to the passerby, they're looking up. There's still 5 birds there. Nothing changed. It doesn't matter that 3 decided to leave. They didn't take any action. They're still there. So I don't buy the T-shirt. I don't buy the bumper sticker that says the obstacle is the way. I don't need to know. I know that already. So I'm going to put myself not in harm's way, but I'm going to do the things that are difficult. I'm going to do them first. I'm going to put the frog first. I'll get in the ocean in the middle of the winter because I'm scared of getting bitten by a shark, because the water's cold. It doesn't matter, because now I can endure anything. It doesn't matter what the freaking temperature is. I cold plunge. I get in the heat. I'll run through the wall. I'll do whatever it takes, because for me, it's trial. And if I can do those things and control the environment, you know, then when it comes up unexpected, I'm ready. And by the way, it's not just in doing things that are difficult. The obstacle is the way. That translates into happiness. You ask most people if they're happy. Well, I don't know, define happiness. Happy, just whatever. However you want to define it. Well, you know, some days it just depends on what I'm doing. You know, I was super happy when I bought my Ford F-250, whatever. That's a pleasure of the moment. Are you happy? Yes or no? Well, you know, you're not. So I equate happiness the way I equate perseverance and getting through the obstacles. Happiness is not a destination. Okay. The way to happiness, there is no real way, no defined path to happiness. Happiness is the way. And so gratitude, you don't do 3, you know, like gratitude exercise every morning and think of 3 things you're grateful for. That's going to last a few days. By the time Thursday rolls around, you'll be like, oh, wait, I already mentioned that. You know, you either live in gratitude or you don't.
Come on.
And so it's the same thing with happiness. It's the same thing with perseverance. It's the same thing with doing the things that are difficult. Life is difficult. You know how I know? Nobody gets out alive. And so if you try to hide and play it safe and don't go, it doesn't matter. The outcome is the same. All you're going to do by repeating what you've always done, all the little things that seem to work, if you just repeat those things and never step outside your comfort zone, you might live 70, 80 years, but you're really going to live 1 year 80 times. I want to live 80 years. I want every day to be different. And if every day is different, then every week is different, then every month is different, then every year is different, and then my life is different. And then I don't have to fear about what's going to happen tomorrow because I'm going to be as prepared as I can be. And I'm also not going to regret what I didn't do yesterday. And regret over yesterday and fear of tomorrow are the twin thieves that rob us of today. How can you live your best day if you're thinking about what you didn't do and feeling terrible about it, or being afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? You can't live your best day because all you're doing is thinking, reliving all the shitty things in the past and being fearful of the future. It's a carpe diem philosophy. Live for the moment. Doesn't mean don't plan. That's not what it means. Just live your best day. On any given day, if I do 2 or 3 events and some philanthropic stuff and some business stuff and make a deal and hit the gym and do this, and man, I can fall exhausted in bed. And I was like, what a day. Holy man, wow. You know, and then I'm chomping at the bit, man, to hit it hard first thing in the morning.
Man, but man, Howie, like someone hearing you speak even now, like gets energy, gets motivated, right? I mean, that's why you do what you do. But can you talk about the rock bottom? Because that story, man, I love that story because that always resonates. I always quote what you quote. That moment when you were hit rock bottom and no one's coming to save you, and that's what changed your direction of your life. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, happy to. So everybody, I think, you know, at least everybody that I know that I've talked to that has shared with me has hit a rock bottom. Of course, rock bottoms are going to be different for everybody, right? But I was living a pretty good life. I would say better than average. I lived in the small town of Laredo, Texas. It's on the border with Mexico. As I like to say, it's not the end of the world, but I could see it from there. And we had a nice house. We had a pool. We had a housekeeper. My parents had a business. And things can unravel very quickly. Ask the people in one of these countries that's getting bombed all of a sudden how quickly things can turn around. So I didn't know much about anything. I wasn't a very good student. I got kicked out of 2 middle schools. I got kicked out of 3 high schools 4 times. I got kicked out of military school. So you got to be a pretty bad kid to do that, right? But I was living a good life, not really caring much about anything. I was riding motorcycles. I had a car before I had a driver's license. And then my parents got divorced. And my dad said that he was moving to Mexico. That's where he was from. But he was such a great guy that he's leaving everything for my mom and the kids. Well, I come to find out, I'm now almost 15 years old. I come to find out that the business went into bankruptcy. My dad left and took his quote unquote half in cash, left us with these assets that were highly leveraged. The house got foreclosed on. We had to sell the car. My mom moved into an apartment with the kids, with the 3 kids, my siblings and I. My siblings are younger. And she went and got a job at my grandfather's business. And then I had been working since age 9, selling snow cones and all kinds of stuff. And I had amassed a pretty nice fortune by then, $30,000. And back that $30,000 was worth something. Now it's a brake job, you know, on a Mercedes. But back then it was something. So I gave it to my mom to try to save her business. And then I lost that $30,000 also, and the business still closed. So my mom ended up getting a job. We moved into an apartment. And then I was coaching my brother's soccer team. He's 10 years younger. My sister's 3 years younger. And I became sort of the surrogate dad for them. And I got to thinking sometime in the years after that, I ended up moving out of the house when I was 18, and I never lived with my parents again. And I traveled around the world. I went on a work program for a year, and then I traveled through Europe, and then I Northeast, and then I ended up going to college and kind of taking the long way around. But I realized that nobody was coming to save me. And if my parents couldn't save me, there is no Superman, and there is no Batman, and there is no somebody who just comes in at the last second and saves you. And if my that was the role I thought my parents were supposed to be playing. And if they couldn't do it, then nobody was coming to do it. And then I came to the realization that I had to do it. So a lot of how I operate, how I get my energy, how I get my endurance, how I get my perseverance, how I get my stubbornness, my philanthropic side of helping others that need a hand up. I'm more of a hand up guy than I am a handout guy. Comes from that, because the feeling was so overwhelmingly negative for me that I didn't want others to have to endure that. And so, when I do stuff for my kids, and the fact that I put in a pool at my house and they invite friends, and the fact that I take their friends on vacation with us and all that stuff, it's because I don't want them to endure what they do. And when they ask me, hey, Dad, how come you don't have a Ferrari? Why don't you have a Lamborghini? I mean, I have other cars, but it's like, how come? I have the wherewithal to buy what I want. I choose not to. And I'm not saying I never would. I'm saying I live so conservatively because subconsciously at a cellular level, I don't want to ever lose all the things I have. And I got close. I had a house fire in 2012. My entire house burnt down. I had, I was married. I had 3 kids, and we barely got out. I mean, the house was engulfed in flames. 5 minutes later, and we would not be having this conversation online today. Also helped shape my thinking that I'm not defined by my possessions. I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm just saying I'm not defined by them. And so when I stopped caring about certain things, I was able to achieve more. But my insatiable appetite for more is not for financial or material things. It's for more support of others in need, because that is an infinite opportunity that never runs out. There are always more people to help, more organizations to do something for. And then I'm rewarded by meeting outstanding people. And I get to know their heart. I get to know what really drives them, versus on a surface level, if I'm just at a party drinking and partying with a bunch of rich people, on their yacht, or who cares? I don't get to know them. And unfortunately, sometimes when I get to know them, I don't really like them. And it's not because I'm trying to be Father Teresa over here, but it's just not my thing. It's just not my thing.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of young people, that's their target, man. Whoa, when I get my Urus, when I get my Lambo, when I get my Ferrari, and we think that then all the pieces of our lives are going to come together like a completed jigsaw puzzle. And they don't. There is no destination. The destination constantly outdistances us.
Man.
And so instead, you got to take breaks, get off the train, have some ice cream, go to the beach, run barefoot more often. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Wow. I wish we had like an applause button that we could hear.
Yeah.
Because you definitely deserve an applause to where we're at right now, because you gave such a real and honest perspective that is not out there, right? A lot of times, like if you watch a podcast, an interview, there's a lot of fluff and there's no real substance or realness. You just gave a kind of like a master class of an entrepreneurial perspective to become the best that they can be in life.
Right.
Why each of those things matter and how they're connected. So It's been an honor to just be listening on such valuable wisdom and advice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate you,
All
man.
right.
I definitely want to do part two, just because you have a lot
Yeah.
of stories, right? A
Thank
lot of
you.
analogies. But I have only question I have, man. I'm gonna off topic, not off topic, but it's
Yeah.
different question. I know you study the Torah,
Yeah.
so I want you to tell me or tell everybody your favorite character and why.
Oh man, I've never thought about favorite character in the Old Testament. Of course, I love the story of Moses. I love Jacob. My dad's name is Isaac. I named my eldest son's middle name is Daniel, or Hebrew name is Daniel. Let me think. I would probably say, instead of character, to me, the story of creation is really, it's really very magical and very humbling. And in a very small way, we can also create something out of nothing, out of an idea. And so for me, the story of creation of the world, that the animals and everything around it says to me, hey, listen, you're here and you're here for a reason and a purpose, and you have to create something. That's how you build a legacy. You create something that benefits others. Just like the world was created to benefit us, we have to create a symbolic world. The other thing that to me is poignant in Judaism is that the philosophy is that if you save one life, it's as though you've saved the entire planet. And I never understood that until I came to realize that people who were saved in the Holocaust went on to get married, have kids, grandkids, great grandkids. And so I understand that if you help save one life, you have no idea the ripple effect that's going to have, the positive effect on the people that come after them because you saved them. And that's really what at least my focus is. How do I leave this place better than the way I found it? And I apply that in business. I apply that in philanthropy. I apply that with friendships. I apply that in everything that I do. How do I make it better? How do I improve it? How do I make it beneficial for everybody?
Nah, I love it, man. Creation is, there's so many, especially when you study like the Hebrew and you get into the roots, it gets real rich and deep, man. So, and Joseph's super into that too. So like one day we need to do, the part two needs to be about that, but I wanted today to just be like a general who you are, and pretty much you kind of represented who you are, right? You told your story and you kind of energize me right now. And that's like who you are. You're passionate. You love to be the light everywhere you go, right? And so that's what we're called to do. And so, man, I really appreciate you, and that's why God brought us together, man. He knew I needed you, so, man.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. This is awesome. I look forward to seeing the podcast, sharing it, tag me, all that stuff.
Absolutely. How we always end is, if first and foremost, whatever plugs that you'd like to say for yourself and your businesses and all the other endeavors, definitely take that time.
Yeah, well, definitely follow me, Howie Nestel, HOWIENESTEL, on YouTube. Let's connect on LinkedIn if it's business related, Sharkmatic advertising, and then go look up Got You Covered. Go like and follow Got You Covered, and come out and help, volunteer, come donate stuff, clear out your closet of all the clothing that no longer fits because you're in such great shape. You lost so much weight by going to the gym with these guys.
Absolutely. And secondly, how we always end our podcast is with a prayer. So I'll go ahead and pray us out today. Dear God, thank you so much for this fellowship time, and be able to just learn and learn to change how we can be better than we are today, God. And thank you for blessing us and being Jehovah Jireh and being the provider of everything that we must need in this life, God. So we love you. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. So thank you all very, very much. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's
Appreciate
awesome.
you.
Joseph, I'm so glad to meet you at Kingdompreneur in person.
Us too.
So yeah.
I heard a ton about you, so looking forward to hearing more.
The good things.
Yeah,
That's a different podcast. I'll put you guys on.
yeah. Well, cool. I'll go ahead and end it. Everybody that's watching, we'll see you next time on the CROWNEDCAST